Okay, we're going to finish with the 5 final letters. That means there are letters which look one way when they're written inside a word, but when they appear as the last letter, the letter changes completely to something very, very different. They're called the 5 final letters. So when these 5 letters appear at the end of any Hebrew word, they change their forms. I'm going to write the way it appears, generally speaking, in terms of script at the beginning or the middle of the word, and the change that it goes through when one of those 5 letters appears at the end of the Hebrew word. And those 5 are, first of all, the chaf. So a general chaf or kaf looks like this, if you remember, in script, like so. That is how a chaf looks in script, and it sometimes appears with a dot in it, and that is a kaf. It's a k. So it's a k or a ch sound. But when this letter appears at the end as a final letter, it appears very differently. It appears like so. Okay? As a kaf or a chaf. Okay? Again, as a kaf or as a chaf. It appears just as a sweeping letter that goes below the line. That's the first one to look at. The next one is the nun. The nun, if you remember, in script, appears like this, as it appears at the beginning or the middle of a word. But when a nun, the n sound, appears at the end of the word, it's a straight line that goes below the line. Okay, it must cross the line and go beyond it, and that is how a nun appears at the end of a word. So this is how a kaf or a chaf appears at the end of a word. This is how a nun appears at the beginning or middle and as the last letter in the word. Next, we have the final fe. So a fe, we said, appears like this in cursive. That is a fe, or with a dot in it, a pei. So with a dot in it, we saw is a p. Without a dot, it's a f. But as a last letter, it appears, now there's 2 different ways that I've seen it being done, and both are correct. One version is like this. When I grew up, that is what a final fe looked like, or a final pei looked like at the end of a letter. However, nowadays, I've seen it done in this form, like so. Both of these qualify as being a final fe, as a final fe. Not to be confused with a lamed, a l sound, which appears like that. Okay? That's another letter. That is a lamed, and that's a completely different letter. This is how a fe or a pei with a dot in it will appear at the end of a word. Next, we have a tzadi. If you remember, the tzadi, we'll do it over here, appears like this in script. That is how it appears in script. But when it appears at the end of a word, it goes through a transformation and looks like, oh, do that one again, I'm so sorry. When it appears at the end of a word, it appears like that. That is what it looks like. So over here, it's like a little 3 on top, or it loops back down. At the end of a word, like eretz, right? This is a T S sound, it's a T sound. It's going to appear like this. I'll do it again because I messed up the first time myself. That is what it looks like. Okay? So that is a final tzadik. Okay, this is the tzadi letter. The tzadi looks like that in script. At the end of a word, it takes on this form. And those are your 1, 2, 3, 4. And the fifth one, which we're going to look at, is the mem. Oh, sorry, I went out of order. So the mem, if you remember, is going to look like this in the middle of a word. In the middle of a word in script, it's going to look like that. That is how mem. But the end of a word, the letter mem, it's a m sound, is going to appear like this and then comes down like that. It's got a little tail. Without that tail, just as a circle, it's a samach, which is a different sound. That's an S sound. But when you put the tail on it, it becomes an M sound. Okay? It's going to become an M sound. So that's as it appears at the beginning of the word. And that's how a mem, the mem, which is the script version, appears at the end of the word. Like that. Those are your 5. So it's kaf, and chaf, and nun, and pei, or fei, and tzadi appears like this, and the mem appears like this with a little piece at the bottom over there. Those are your 5 final letters.